Hey everyone, welcome to Dalton Draws, a series where the title tells you exactly what the show is. This is part of a 5-episode series for Super Smash Bros. Each episode will cover characters introduced in a different game in the series. This week's episode focuses on all the fighters added in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. This episode somehow took the longest without feeling like it took that long to make. Part of that is because I had been working on the project for about a month before I started making the videos, and the roster for Smash 4 in particular was just gigantic. Melee took the longest to draw because there were so few simple character designs, and the time each character took to draw left me pretty unmotivated to continue back then. Smash 4 added the most characters in the series, but a lot of them had simple designs, so there were at least some recording sessions where I could finish 5 or more characters easily. But on the flip side of that, Smash 4 also had a lot of characters with gender swaps or other variations that needed to be drawn. My policy on drawing these is the same as in Part 3. I'll draw one male and one female version of each character when that applies, and I'll be drawing the 7 Koopalings. The Koopalings were what I was dreading drawing the most, but they ended up not being so bad. That being said, I still had to draw the variations for Villager, Wii Fit Trainer, Robin, Corrin, and the Mii Fighters, and those all added up. Still, in the end, it wasn't too bad. Smash 4 didn't just introduce a ton of characters, it also added some of my favorite characters and some of my mains. We're kicking things off with one of my mains, actually. I've wanted an Animal Crossing character in the series back in Brawl, so I was excited to see them headline the reveal trailer for Smash 4. Well, until they were overshadowed immediately after by the next character reveal. Still, it was great to see Animal Crossing get a character. The Green Villager was my main in Smash 4, and I've been playing them a decent amount in Ultimate too. Using Pocket to steal items and projectiles is just fun, and a lot of Villagers' moves are perfect for toying with opponents. They're a great addition to Smash, and one I'll continue to play. I don't play Mega Man, but man, it was hype as heck to see him appear in the Smash 4 trailer. Well, kinda. The stream was super glitchy when I was watching it, and I remember seeing like the intro to the trailer, a small bit of gameplay, and then it just jumped to Mega Man and it was like, well, okay, I guess he's in. That's all I need to know. I don't play as him much, but I'm glad he's in Smash Bros. I love the character, and I love the music, characters, and aesthetic of the series. That being said, I just don't have much fun with the games. They're great games, just not for me. When it comes to Mega Man, I'm more a fan of the Archie Comics run, which ended far too soon. Still, the representation the series gets in Smash Bros. Is awesome. Wii Fit Trainer was such a bizarre, hilarious announcement. I love that reveal trailer, and I never expected to see them join the battle. I don't play as them much at all, but when I first got Smash 3DS, I tried to main them for a while. I just love their playstyle and all their fitness quotes and animations. In the end though, I had more fun playing other characters instead. I might have to give them another try in Ultimate. Man, I hated Rosalina and Luma back in Smash 4. They were such an absolute pain to fight most of the time, and I remember a short while where they were just constantly who I would face in For Glory. Nowadays though, I actually don't have much trouble fighting her. Despite my complaints about fighting her in Smash though, I was so happy to see her added as a character in the first place. I liked the first Super Mario Galaxy and absolutely adored Super Mario Galaxy 2. The first game was fun and all, but for me it felt like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. Like, yeah, it had its identity with the gravity and space themes, but the level design felt like a weird in-between for the sandbox games before it and the more linear games that came after. Galaxy 2, on the other hand, I just constantly had fun while playing it. There's some things Galaxy 1 did better, but it felt like 2 knew what it wanted to be and excelled at it. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter. I know a lot of people prefer the first game, and both are fantastic. Little Mac was by far my most requested character for Smash 4, and I was so excited when he was announced for the game on my birthday. I'm a big fan of the Punch-Out series. I didn't play the arcade games, but I loved the NES game, enjoyed Super Punch-Out, and the Wii game is one of my all-time favorite games. I actually do a thing at PAX West every year where I go to the classic console room and over the course of the weekend, I'll do a complete playthrough of the Wii game on a rental copy. This year I also did a bit of a showcase for my friends to show them some of the highlights of the game. It's just a blast. As for Little Mac himself, he's one of my favorite Nintendo characters. I love his redesign in the Wii game, and his dynamic with Doc Lewis is just fun to watch. He's fun to play in Smash 4, but his recovery is just awful. I'm so glad they improved that in Ultimate. One of my favorite things to do in Smash 4 was to use customs to max out his strength so he could 2-hit KO opponents. When Greninja was announced for Smash 4, I was excited. I wasn't the biggest fan of Greninja yet. I had used a Fennekin in my Pokemon X playthrough, so I got the lamest final evolution of the trio. But as I've shown in some of my other art videos, and just some of my other art in general, I was a fan of the XY and XYZ seasons of the Pokemon anime, which introduced Ash Greninja. That quickly became one of my favorite Pokemon designs, and one of my favorite inclusions in the anime since the original few seasons. In the time since then, Greninja has become a staple on my Pokemon teams, and I used Ash Greninja on my team in Sun and Moon. I still never got good with him in Smash though. His side B would always mess up my attempts at recovering. I decided to give him another shot in Ultimate though, and now I'm actually really enjoying him. He's fun to use. Every time I watched videos about Smash Ultimate, both before and after the whole Everyone Is Here trailer, there was one sentiment I kept hearing. People being like, it would have been fine if Mii Fighters were cut. Everyone Is Here didn't need to include them. And that always bums me out. Mii's were one of my favorite additions in Smash 4. My attitude towards custom moves and stats has been on display throughout the video series, and making goofy Mii Fighters was definitely part of that. But you know, not all of them were meant to be goofy. Two Miis I used a lot both in 4 and so far in Ultimate have been Wonder Red and Professor Layton. They were two of my most wanted characters in both games, and it's still nice to be able to play as them in a sense with Miis, even if I would much prefer the real deal, of course. Of the 3 types of fighters, the Brawler is my favorite, especially in Ultimate. They changed up a few of the moves, like giving the Brawler a suplex and a counter where they slam the opponent into the ground. That's just awesome. Mii Fighters might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I'm glad they're in the series. Palutena easily had my favorite newcomer trailer for Smash 4. I've wanted a Smash Bros. Anime for the longest time, and the trailer gave us a taste of that. Plus, it was animated by the team that made the Palutena's Revolting Dinner short for Kid Icarus Uprising, which was great. She was one of my most anticipated characters for Smash 4, and then she ended up not being very good. She had some cool moves, but all the good ones were locked behind custom moves, so a lot of the time I wouldn't be able to use them. Because of that, I never ended up playing her much. I hear she's much better in Ultimate, but I haven't had a chance to play as her yet, so don't take my word for it. I'll have to give her another shot. She's one of my favorite characters in Kid Icarus Uprising. And speaking of Uprising, Dark Pit got a lot of flack for being in Smash 4, but I was actually fine with it. This was before Echo Fighters made the idea of clones more palatable for a lot of people. But it was pretty clear looking at him and Lucina that they didn't take much time to develop, at least compared to your standard fighter. So it never really bothered me. It helps that I was familiar with the character from Uprising, where he was a genuinely good character, better than what I would have expected from that kind of dark clone kind of role. I feel like having his moveset be a copy of Pit's was a bit of a missed opportunity, since Uprising has so many cool weapons that aren't represented in Smash, but man, I am pretty sure people would riot if they gave him a full moveset. I'm glad he's in Smash, though part of that is because he brings his awesome theme song too. I gotta be honest, I'm surprised it took until Smash 4 for Pac-Man to join the battle. It seems like such an obvious inclusion, and I suppose having Bandai Namco involved in 4's development helped to make that happen. There's not really a ton to say here, but I'm glad they went with this design for him. It looks so good. I don't think I had played Fire Emblem Awakening at the time of Lucina's reveal for Smash 4. I eventually got around to it, I think later that year actually. I remember getting Fire Emblem Awakening for Christmas, around the same time as getting Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, and trying to play both games at the same time was kind of a mistake. That was my first Fire Emblem game, and it interested me so much more than Pokemon at the time that I made zero progress in Alpha Sapphire. As for Lucina in Smash, she's fine. I prefer her over Marth nowadays, though that might just be because I'm actually familiar with the game she's from. And then there's Robin. He's not one of my mains, but he's one of the characters that I want to play more of, because I love his playstyle. The mix of sword plays and spells is awesome, and I love Robin's design. During the sketch, I decided that for detailed characters like this that also have multiple versions, I'd draw one version facing forward and the other facing back. When I sketched Robin, I drew the female version facing forward, but for the final version I swapped the two. The reason for this is that it seems like the male Robin is typically considered to be the canon one, or at least the more popular design. I'm also slightly basing this off of Fire Emblem Warriors, where the Robin you get during the story is the male one, and the female version is an unlockable character. The opposite is true for Corrin later on, where I draw the more dynamic pose for the female version in that case, since she's more popular. But we'll get to Corrin soon enough. As a side note, I was actually kinda hoping to see Celica appear as an Echo Fighter for Robin, but there's plenty of Fire Emblem characters as is, so I'm fine with her not being included. Shulk's another character I'd love to get better with. I played him a decent amount in Smash 4, but never enough to consider him one of my mains. To be honest, I'm not really all that into the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I hear the numbered entries are supposed to be pretty fantastic, but the only one I played was Xenoblade Chronicles X. And to be fair, I liked it a lot, but that was in spite of the combat system, which I was just not a fan of. I liked X more for its gigantic world that was a blast to explore. Well, that and the giant mechs, of course. At some point, I'd love to play the first Xenoblade though, and see what all the hype is about. And now for one of the drawings I was dreading the most, which actually turned out to not be much of a hassle after all. Bowser Jr. himself had a really simple design, nice and easy to draw. But my policy for drawing alts meant I wasn't just drawing him, I was also drawing Iggy, Larry, Lemmy, Ludwig, Morden, Roy, and Windy. I wasn't exactly looking forward to drawing 8 separate pictures. If they were all drawn separately like some of the other alts, I could have just made a whole Koopaling episode. That's why I decided to bunch them all up together in Bowser's Koopa Clown Car, rather than the junior version they use. You know, it's funny, in the time I've been part of the gaming community, I've gotten to see the hype when the Koopalings returned after such a long time, followed by the fandom's lowering opinion of the characters with each appearance since then. I like them just fine, but they're definitely not my favorite Mario characters. I like the way they were worked into Smash though, that's really cool. You know, I couldn't believe it when I found out the dog from Duck Hunt was in Smash. Well, the dog and the duck. And the guy shooting at the duck from off screen. It was such an out-of-nowhere inclusion, but I kind of love it. These two are a lot of fun to play as. I didn't play their game as a kid, but I did own that cartridge that had it and the original Super Mario Bros. On it. I never had an NES Zapper though, so I had no way to play it. They're not a character I would have ever picked for Smash, but I am so glad they're in the series. Alright, I'll get this out of the way right now. I don't play Street Fighter. I've played a bit of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I've played a bit of Super Street Fighter 4 on the 3DS. It's one of those series where I'll acknowledge that it's a great game, it's just not for me. The only traditional fighting games I've really enjoyed are games in the Versus series, like Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. I've also only played a little bit of Dragon Ball FighterZ, but I've loved that. It's just a personal thing, but I don't like how insurmountable the skill gap feels when you start out in that kind of game. It just makes starting out not very fun, and that makes it hard to get invested in continuing. The Versus games definitely have that too, but there's at least enough there for me to still enjoy them. While I don't enjoy playing Street Fighter, I do love the characters in the series, and I'm glad Ryu made it into Smash. I thought that was such an awesome inclusion in Smash 4's DLC. But speaking of awesome inclusions in the DLC, I was blown away when I saw the announcement for Cloud. He was someone I absolutely never expected to see in Smash Bros. But, confession time, I've never played a Final Fantasy game. Not a single one. I think I might have tried a bit of Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube, but that's such a vague memory that I'm legitimately not sure. I do have a SNES Classic though, so who knows, maybe sometime I'll try Final Fantasy VI. Still, even without playing the series, I knew how big of a deal Cloud was. I love his design, and I love that he's in Smash. Maybe I'll play Final Fantasy VII when the Switch re-release happens, or when the remake is finally finished. Eventually. Or, I guess I should say, if the remake is ever finished. Between the announcement of Ultimate and the Everyone's Here trailer, I saw a lot of people suggesting that Corrin should get cut from the roster, and I don't really see why. Yeah, they're yet another Fire Emblem character, but they were pretty unique from the rest, and their game was one of the best-selling entries in the series, even if it wasn't a fan favorite. Personally, I loved Fates when I first played it, but my opinion of the game has only gone down over time. I guess when I was playing it, I was so wrapped up in how great the gameplay was that I kind of just overlooked the other aspects of the game. Still, even if Fire Emblem Fates isn't my favorite game, I like how Corrin plays in Smash, so I'm fine with their inclusion. Nothing could top Cloud in terms of being a surprising reveal, but man, I did not expect Bayonetta. How could I? She's a little more, she's from a more mature series than most Smash fighters. And not in the same kind of way as Snake either. Still, I'm all for unique characters, and she's certainly that. I haven't played Bayonetta or its sequel, but I really should, because from a gameplay perspective, I know I'd love it. Platinum Games puts out some wonderful stuff, and I love that style of gameplay. Just the aesthetic of the series doesn't really appeal to me, so it's hard to get interested, you know? Her design is awesome though, particularly the design from Bayonetta 2. And with all those fighters out of the way, time to edit them into the poster layout. This is where things really start getting filled in with the poster. The Smash 4 roster nearly doubled the size of it. I tried to put most characters into the spots where they were originally sketched, but with all of the changes made in previous episodes, the differences are really starting to pile up now. I might actually have to go back and adjust this part of the layout once I finish the final set of characters. And with that, part 4 is complete. Tune in next time for part 5. If you want to see the characters as they're drawn, follow me on Twitter. And if you want to support the content I create and help me to continue with it, you can support this channel on Patreon. All content on there is available to anyone pledging even $1 a month. Thanks for watching. Later.